Hi, Teresa Phelps Martin, coming to you with the energetic signature for the month of June. And let's just put it this way, I'm late because it's nuts out there. No, it really is nutty. There is so much emotional swirl happening for everyone. And yes, at different levels and at different awareness levels as well. Not just resources, not just levels of intensity, but levels of awareness. Now, one could argue that being unaware of it is a good thing. However, you get tossed in the rough waters and blindsided and have little authority in your own life. Cue the thunder. So the energetic signature this month is a lot of dissolution, a lot of mutable air, with a huge underlying theme of leading from emotional well-being, in my opinion. Understanding how to initiate the change. We have to go deep into the surface of our soul that sits within us and hold space. So let's just back up for a second, and then I'll tell you the big cosmic transits. But the holding space in your soul, it's something we get to wake up to in this lifetime, but it isn't necessarily exactly what we want to wake up to, right? Especially if we watch TVs and read fiction, it always is sugarcoating things, right? There's always that energy of that living happily ever after. However, there's so much more satisfaction in waking up. And no, some of us are patterning is not interested in any level of emotional intensity. However, we can be aware of the emotional intensity around us and be more clear and mindful of our values and how we're nourishing ourselves and how we're creating boundaries. So with that being said, we are in the middle of eclipse season. So if you thought about, for a moment, that which gives you vitality, whether it's your breath, the sun, water, food, money, whatever resources help to sustain you, or somebody you love and adore, and that for a period of time, it was completely inaccessible. Like somebody unplugged you from the connection. Things go a little bleep. I could lose power. Stormy weather, like the actual weather right now is stormy. We lose power. And so when there's this level of disruption, it takes a little while, right? It takes a little while. You flounder in the darkness and then find your way. That's the energy of an eclipse. Now, you can argue with me. Go for it. I love a good conversation. That the sun is too far away or the planets are too far away to have any kind of impact on us. Really? Is there anybody who in this mutable air, like spring is coming to a close, the days are longer, the longest day of the year is happening in June, that the sun has no, the planets, the energy that we can't touch, literally touch, doesn't have an impact on us. I can even go with you and imagine somebody that you've lost, or a job or a relationship of any kind, and how that still impacts you. So that being said, when we have a solar eclipse, that's really asking us to integrate what happened at the end of May. All right, we have the planet Mercury in retrograde, and people are like, oh, Mercury's in retrograde. That's like the least of our concerns. The thing is that Mercury is happy in this mutable air energy. It's home, its curiosity and its trickster nature is pretty intense right now. So it's extra tricky. Just laugh every time you have to do things twice. I had to go to Lowe's twice for my in-laws move, and I just had to laugh. That I had to go twice because literally something I was checking out was still sitting at the cash register when I went back to get it. And both times the card that I was paying with wouldn't work. So it's all good. Humor is really important, and that's a way to handle this retrograde. But especially when people from a long time ago, stories that you know are resurfacing, and communication's not so great because everybody doesn't feel like dealing with their emotional land. So that brings us to the energy of Venus, because she's the second closest to the sun, and she sits, you know, if you think about our solar system, we live on planet Earth, and between the sun and Earth is Mercury and Venus. So our values, our relationships, the way we articulate. She is what is called out of bounds for a while, and she is in Cancer, which is that leader of that emotional nourishment, that ability to sit with great compassion. And but she's creating a little discord, because that's the only way we can change is unless the pot gets stirred up. What's hard is right now we are aware of the injustices that have been around for a long time, the cultural stereotypes that no longer are serving, the great divergence of political viewpoints, and just the overall, we're all exhausted. And what happens when you're exhausted? Do you know anybody in your life that gets angry when they're hungry? Okay? Do you know anybody in your life that gets so overwhelmed they're paralyzed? Do you know anybody at your life that gets devoured by the lack of order or perfection? Internally, that they work so hard to control everything externally. So this is the energy we're in. And we can't change the people around us. This is what the Gemini energy is. It's the twins, it's the two. And so that low vibe energy is usually looked at as duality. But the thing about Gemini energy, why it's tricky, is that it's non-dual. They're the same. Light and dark, they're the same. Yeah, I won't go further on that one. So anyhow, what we can do as we witness spring dissolving and the days getting warmer and the abundance of the earth really providing the fruit to bear, to nourish us as we move through this time, we can realize, let's integrate, let's look, let's reflect, let's feel, let's be sensitive, let's recognize the discord. Let's take care of our house and home. Let's recognize the importance of boundaries and the need to have authority in the way we engage and respect the many and the one. So that as the energy shifts this month, and we move into much watery lands, we don't get any kind of fire. Mars will go into Leo not too long after the solar eclipse. Also, not too long after the solar eclipse, we have another trigger point of kind of this whole year's theme of old versus new, of taking old technology and modern adaptation of it. Also being futuristic and being able to let go of that structure that no longer is serving. So look at the infrastructure of you. Look at the ways that you seek out freedom. And in that, what can you release so that you can create anew? As a friend said to me, oh, it sounds as if a really good grounding meditation might do well for you. And she doesn't know me all that well. And I said, well, actually, it's funny. My meditations do not ground me. They usually take me out into the swimming in the deep waters of the cosmos. So I use dirt. And I had the revelation that it's like, even go further. How am I engaging with the Earth's energy and the way I'm nourishing myself? So I'm just sharing that with you to plant seeds, because when we have this solar eclipse, the actual date for it, the new moon is June 10th, 19 degrees Gemini. You can always look at your own natal chart to understand how the 19 degrees of anything impacts. And if you have no idea, just reach out. I'm still in the space of being generous, and I love looking at charts. They just give you this, it's your soul's promise. It's the inner patterning of you. It's this amazing way to access your strengths, your vulnerabilities, and your ability to understand the discord so that you can continue to grow and evolve and awaken to the life that's yours, to be the hero of your own story and not just take care of everybody else. So let me be a little linear for a second. I'm coming to you June 3rd. Venus is in Cancer. The sun is in Gemini, and Mercury is retrograde in Gemini. So we have these luminaries, and the moon right now is void, of course, and the new moon energy will be on June 10th. And the full moon energy will be in Capricorn on June 24th. And it'll be a big illumination of kind of some of the things that we've learned. Let me double check those dates. I know June 10th, I can't help. Yeah, June 24th at 3 degrees Capricorn. So what we'll have is that then mid-month, the sun moves into Cancer. And so we have the watery, moody nature. And a little tip with that, our emotions allow us to be intuitive and compassionate and connected to one another. So if you are moody, then what you want to do is become more aware of when the moods get triggered. What is your trigger? And how can you cultivate the boundaries? Because you're not going to stop being moody. Because you feel that's part of your inner patterning. There's an emotional intensity to the structure of your life. So rather than try to use all these ideas that we're fed, positive affirmations, positive thinking, don't get me started. But we can rather be like, you know what, I feel deeply. And so I feel I need space. And you make yourself a priority. Okay, so then we have Mars, who's in Cancer right now. He's been there for a while, and he's making everybody a little more sensitive. And people feel out of control when they feel a lot of things because we're not usually taught. Think about your childhood. Very few of us were in environments that valued emotions. I mean, historically, emotional individuals, feminine, has not been valued. I mean, come on. JFK back in the 60s acknowledged the inequality of women versus men, and it's 2021. Do the math. Not much has changed. Better, maybe. I'm doing this. I know that being an American female, I have a lot of opportunities and privilege, but every day I have to stand up for myself, my voice, my feelings, and the way I engage in my world and in my life, and call forward respect. So Mars is just adding to that because there's a lot of passion and there's a lot of conflict. The transformation and initiation, there's a lot of revolting against the structure and the way it's been and moving forward. Old ways versus new ways, okay? So with the Mars being in Cancer, we have that solar eclipse on June 10th, which will just know that the power line to our vitality will go. Like the vision that keeps coming to me is like, remember old TVs that you had to actually turn the dial to change the channels? There was no such thing as a remote control. Yes, I'm dating myself. And it would just went, it's just like turned all white and bubbly. That's a little bit of the feeling when there's an eclipse. Okay, so that's the disruption. Now you're listening to this, so you're a little more aware than probably everybody else in your house. My sweet husband, who's going through a lot and has been for a while, it just keeps like big tidal waves again and again and again. I'm like, you really want to know what's going on? He goes, no, I don't. I said, okay, well, just use empathy. So Mars is teaching us how to be empathetic and to transform that, because Pluto's still in Capricorn and they're opposing each other. So there's kind of just this little battle of like, I'm me, you're you. You can't change me. I cannot change you. So we have to resolve to find a way to work together. Okay, then we have the big Saturn-Uranus square that, if you're into astrology, everybody has been talking about, which is again the old and the new. And then Mars will move into Leo. So we're gonna feel a lot of feisty energy, and just make it about love. Make it about love, please. Then we'll have the first quarter opening square of this Gemini cycle. But it's really this Gemini cycle, the way the moon is until we get to Leo season, is a pattern of integrating what's gone before. So look at what's showed up May 26th until you watch this. And what's the biggest message that continues to come at you? Because remember, Mercury's in retrograde. So, and what are the lessons that we can learn and integrate and resolve? So when we get to that Virgo first quarter, we're actually building up to the lunar gestation of the Capricorn full moon. That sounded really sophisticated. And when the moon is full in Capricorn, we have a huge opposition of where we come from and the legacy we want to leave. And so look at it. It's just this theme is unfolding of what we've been taught, what happens, and the lack of value of the home, and what goes in to care for the home, and the structures that have been dictating that for so long. Okay, that's kind of that energy. Then we are going to go boom, 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 boom. There's going to be this kind of like bump, bump, bump. Jupiter's been in Pisces, so everything is kind of big and expanded and dreamy. And then all of a sudden it's again going to go, right? And then it's going to start to track back and go retrograde, and it'll move back into the fixed air. So it's really this, like, we have got to expand the ideas that came up this spring of how to care for humanity. And Saturn's retrograde right now, so it's like, yeah, I know, I've been trying to tell this. That's why everybody's feeling so volatile and nutty and emotional. So thanks for coming back and realizing that we can't just jump into our future that fast and dream a dream of our future. We need to come back and integrate and build the structure. And then Neptune is going to also go retrograde at the end of the month. And so we have that sort of delusionment, the illusion of how it's going to be is going to be asked for us to look back at it. And there's just so many unknowns that you can take care of you. And that's what this energetic signature is all about. Uranus is going to still be in Taurus, and its big energy is that sort of like groundbreaking revolution of just really the collective, not just one group, all groups, everywhere. Everybody's in some kind of discord everywhere. So, and then at the end of the month, we're going to start to find the fire because Mars will be in Leo and Venus, she's going to be in Leo. So that's going to move us into July. Mercury does come out of retrograde at the end of the month, but he's still got to travel back over all the storylines that he reflected back on. So Mercury doesn't get clear out of this mutable reflection and different messages and the tricksters and doing things multiple times until mid-July. And July is going to be feisty and fiery because we really have the meeting of how can we work and reimagine the way we engage with our lives. Okay, that's a lot. And there's more. That's a very limited expression of the energetic signature of this month. But just know that we've entered this new journey of taking flight. And you want to, when I was learning how to fly, you had to learn how to fly before you ever flew, okay? So, but we don't really know. So we're just learning right now. We're learning about all the things that work, what doesn't work. Did you untie the plane from the ground? What kind of knot did you use? Did you tie it so that if a big storm came through, the plane could come unlatched so the wings wouldn't rip off? It's really wild. And then you have to also learn about the way the plane actually works, the engine and the fuel and the pistons and the propeller and the rudder. You have to learn the mechanics all before you fly. And then you can't fly, you're not licensed until you've put so many hours in. And you've taken a written exam, an oral exam, like where somebody actually asks you questions in person. And a flight, like you're actually flying. And they put you in crisis. Like literally, the time I was flying, and if this triggers fear, it's all orchestrated, it's there, that when you're flying, I'll never forget it, they had just paved the runway. So the runway had no lines. It was just this strip in a field. You couldn't even see it. And I'm flying, and the instructor who's giving me the test is there. Because this is part of the oral exam, that then he just pulls the throttle. Okay, that means you're gliding, because that's the thing, we can coast when you don't have fuel and the engine's not running, which is really, really cool. But if you don't know what you're doing, it triggers crisis. And the thing is that you have to stay calm. You have to stay calm. That's what you're getting tested on to get your license to fly. And pulls the throttle and says, okay, you know, none of this is really happening, but your oil pressure is running high. Your engine just stopped. What are you gonna do? Well, interestingly enough, people were skydiving around me. So literally I'm flying, and when I look out the horizon, there are people falling from the sky. So, anyhow, no real markings because I just paid, like, it's just kind of one of these situations. It was really intense. And I have a trigger that I wasn't aware of that time. When a lot's coming at me, everything gets really blurry. So I just trust my instincts and was able to land the plane. And then what happened, what the instructor does, is just as you're about to touch down, he pushes the throttle back in and you have to take off again. So it's just, this is the dance of life this year, this month, this year. Because 2021, everybody thought was going to be easier. It's not. So this year, we're just kind of at that peak of the like, wow, where are we? Did somebody pull the throttle? We're coasting because it feels good. But we're going to have to make some choices of how we're going to land the plane so we can take off again. So this is Teresa Phelps Martin, straight from my heart to yours, sharing with you the energetic signature of the dissolving of our thoughts of the way things were, so we can initiate and integrate and nourish this new way of being, so we can touch down and take off again. And so you can live your truth, so you can be real, and you can be your soul, and you can just be so fully you. I will come again. And I thank you for listening and tuning in. So until next time, ciao.